With Flight 7 just around the corner, the space community is eagerly anticipating the debut of the Starship Block 2 hardware. While Block 1 has mastered soft landings, Block 2 promises to bring SpaceX closer to Starship's upper stage reusability, leading to the ultimate goal of full reusability of both stages. The journey begins with Ship 33, which features numerous redesigned and simplified systems, particularly the flaps, playing a vital role in controlling and guiding the vehicle during re-entry and landing. These flaps have been upgraded to be more reliable and robust, addressing issues that arose during previous flights. So, what specific changes has SpaceX implemented? Discover all the details in today's episode. Anyway, thank you for helping us reach 90,000 subscribers. Our next goal is 100,000, and we need your support to get there. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We appreciate your help. Thank you. The flaps of SpaceX's Starship rocket play a crucial role in controlling its aerodynamics during various flight phases, particularly during re-entry and landing. It consists of two components: forward flaps positioned on the payload bay, and aft flaps located on the sides of the engine bay and LOX tank. In Starship Block 1, the old flap design clearly showed its shortcomings. Flight 4 marks the first time both booster and ship made them all the way to a soft landing in the ocean. This allows us to take a closer look at the performance of the flaps. During Ship 29 re-entered, plasma got into the port side forward flap hinge, nearly melting it off. Ship 30 in Flight 5, although has the heat shield faring much better than Ship 29, still had some burn marks on the forward flaps. Then on Flight 6, SpaceX challenged Ship 31 even more by flying at higher angles of attack to test the limits of flap control and future landing configurations. Prior to launch, the flaps and flap fairings got the new ablative layer, and gap filler material was added to the flaps. As a result, there was once again a burn-through on at least one of the forward flaps of Ship 31. It's safe to say that the Block 1 flap design had a major weakness related to its ability to withstand extreme heat during re-entry. This indicates that while design upgrades have already proven beneficial, further refinements are still needed. That is where the second version comes in, which will incorporate more significant upgrades. So, what differentiates the Block 2 flap design from the previous design? Let's start off with the forward flaps. Beyond a space shuttle-style heat shield of blankets and ceramic tiles, the Starship upper stage is meant to achieve that reusability by descending through the atmosphere and landing unlike any other spacecraft, plane, or rocket ever flown. Instead of flying, gliding, or knifing through the atmosphere, nose or tail first, Starship freefalls perpendicular to the ground for the last few dozen kilometers before aggressively flipping into a vertical orientation at the last second and landing propulsively on its tail. Now, according to Elon Musk, 2 of the 4 flaps that largely make that exotic maneuver possible are set for a small but significant redesign. I'm so glad we finally fixed the forward flap design. The old one was killing me. It was too large and heavy, positioned at 180 degrees, which caused issues during the high heating hypersonic phase of flight. The new design solves those problems. The new, smaller flap design is a game changer for Starship. These changes will not only improve maneuverability during flight, but also boost overall reliability. While the version 2 forward flap is significantly smaller, reducing the static aerodynamic demands that affect navigation and the critical flip maneuver during descent, this design minimizes the risk of damage during flight and simplifies manufacturing, which will increase operational flexibility. In Block 1, the forward flaps had a design where the lower edge ran parallel to the ground and was perpendicular to the outboard edge, creating a distinct 90-degree angle at the lower corner. In contrast, the new flaps have a much more swept shape compared to the Block 1 design and will no longer have the bottom edge parallel to the ground when deployed. Additionally, the new flaps appear thinner, which helps reduce dead weight. Both faces of the new flaps are parallel, simplifying the heat shield design significantly. In contrast, the old flaps had non-parallel faces due to their thicker construction near the hinge, tapering toward the outboard edge. This tapered design introduced additional complexity to the heat shield. All the way back in August of 2021, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk noted that there was a slight error with the forward flap design. While the moving section of the flap is essential for control, the passive section was deemed counterproductive, as it pushed the nose of the spacecraft backward. This passive section comprises parts of the flap and a component called static arrow, which always extends from the ship, increasing drag. The static arrow serves to protect the hinge and fill the gap between the nose cone and the flap. This flap configuration adversely affected the spacecraft during descent, as it continuously attempted to lift the forward end, requiring compensation from the aft flaps. To address this issue, Musk suggested rotating the forward flaps to leeward and further forward to improve the moment arm, maybe roughly 120 degrees apart, and now the flaps are now situated about 120 to 140 degrees apart from each other, rather than the 180 degrees on the older design. It means it shifted higher and closer to the leeward side. This repositioning offers better protection during atmospheric re-entry, reducing the potential for damage like what was observed in Flight 4. As a result of these changes, the static aerodynamic system is largely shielded from airflow, and when the flaps are retracted, they are almost completely hidden behind the nose tip. While the forward flaps have undergone significant redesigns, the structure of the aft flaps appears to remain unchanged, and the reasons for this are unclear. The aft flaps on Starship share many characteristics with the previous forward flap design. There is no discernible difference between the aft flaps of the older and updated ship models. They maintain the same shape and internal structure, indicating they are essentially carryovers from the previous generation. The aft flaps continue to be spaced 180 degrees apart. At this point, it seems SpaceX has chosen not to modify its design. The thickness and shape of these flaps have remained consistent. Like the former forward flap design, the aft flaps feature a tapered profile that narrows toward the outboard edge, causing their two faces to be non-parallel, which contrasts with the new forward flaps. The flap design of SpaceX's Starship significantly differs from that of NASA's Space Shuttle. The shuttle features a vertical stabilizer, with wings attached to the mid-fuselage, while SpaceX opts for a design without large wings to minimize dead weight and enhance safety and efficiency. The shuttle's oversized wings limit its capabilities, confining it primarily to low Earth orbit and hindering its potential for missions to Mars or the Moon. This design not only makes launches less efficient, but also increases the risk of debris collisions during ascent. SpaceX's approach focuses on creating a more streamlined spacecraft. The Starship employs body flaps that play a crucial role in controlling its trajectory, especially during landing. These flaps are designed to dissipate energy during atmospheric entry and are positioned to optimize performance. Unlike the shuttle, which relies on the lift generated by its wings for a gradual descent, Starship uses a high-drag strategy, presenting its broadside to the airflow to slow down rapidly during re-entry. This design philosophy allows Starship to manage heat dissipation more effectively, reducing the risk of thermal damage. The differences in their re-entry mechanisms highlight the distinct operational goals of each spacecraft, with Starship prioritizing rapid deceleration over lift and glide capabilities. Overall, SpaceX's innovative flap design reflects its commitment to creating a fully reusable spacecraft capable of ambitious missions beyond low Earth orbit. To achieve the current flap design of Starship, SpaceX invested years in research, testing, and modifications, particularly evident during the dynamic early development phase when annual changes were common. In the initial 2017 design, known as the Big Falcon Ship, ABFS, the upper stage featured a small delta wing at the rear with split flaps for pitch and roll control. This delta wing was intended to enhance the spacecraft's flight capabilities, allowing it to land in various atmospheric conditions, whether in a vacuum, thin atmosphere, or dense environment, thus enabling landings anywhere in the solar system. By 2018, this design evolved into what Elon Musk referred to as the final version of SpaceX's Big Falcon rocket. The updated model replaced the single delta wing with 3 larger wings, 2 actuated aft fins and 1 landing pad. Additionally, it included 2 forward actuated flaps. The forward fins were positioned near the nose to aid in steering, slowing down, and stabilizing the spacecraft during atmospheric entry. The aft wings not only facilitated flight on Earth and Mars, but also served as landing pads, moving away from previous designs that featured pop-out landing legs. This iteration could accommodate a significant amount of cargo, equivalent to a double-decker bus, for easier access post-landing. The evolution continued into 2019, when further redesigns reduced the number of aft flaps from 3 to 2, primarily driven by concerns about vehicle mass. Musk noted that this change was based on analyses suggesting that 2 rear fins with separate airframe-mounted legs would be lighter. The design also included smaller fins at the top of the vehicle for added control, with features like forward movable fins and cold gas attitude control thrusters, aimed at balancing the mass of the Raptor engines and fins at the base. Since then, the number and structure of flaps have been mostly maintained, except for the fact that SpaceX only made a few tiny changes for Starship version 2, as we stated. Similar to any other part of Starship, the flap design development process was based on an iterative approach. This methodology emphasizes rapid prototyping, allowing SpaceX to quickly build, test, and refine each version of the spacecraft. By embracing a cycle of build, test, analyze, improve, the company can swiftly identify flaws and implement necessary changes based on real-world data, rather than relying solely on theoretical models. This approach contrasts sharply with traditional aerospace practices that often involve extensive upfront planning and lengthy development timelines. Over the years, SpaceX has produced multiple prototypes of Starship, each serving as a learning platform for subsequent iterations. The iterative process not only accelerates development, but also enhances cost efficiency by reducing the man-hours required to address issues as they arise. Moreover, this flexibility allows SpaceX to adapt designs in response to test results, ensuring that each iteration is better suited for its intended mission. The iterative design strategy has proven particularly effective in addressing challenges associated with developing a fully reusable spacecraft capable of interplanetary travel. As a result, Starship is on track to revolutionize space travel by making it more accessible and sustainable. We are on the brink of Flight 7, marking a significant advancement in SpaceX's Starship program. As noted, a new ship, a new year, and new limits. Excitement still guaranteed. This upcoming test flight is set to introduce the Starship Block 2, which promises enhancements in size, technology, and power. The upcoming test flight will include the inaugural test for payload deployment and conduct multiple re-entry tests aimed at optimizing the ship's catch and reuse capabilities. The mission will also involve launching and returning the Super Heavy booster. Clearly, SpaceX aims at Starship's full reusability this year, which is crucial for future missions like Artemis 3 scheduled for 2027. In Artemis 3, the Starship lunar lander will fly to the Moon, so it will need to be refueled in orbit by multiple Starship tankers. SpaceX plans to demonstrate in-space refueling of Starship this year to prepare for that. This process involves 2 Starships docking in orbit for propellant transfer. Therefore, enhancing the thermal protection system is vital for safeguarding the vehicle during re-entry. While the Starship human landing system is designed to be expendable, the support tankers must be reusable to ensure efficiency and sustainability in future missions. Rework of the heat shield has become one of the main subjects of Starship testings since Flight 5, with replacing the entire thermal protection system with newer generation tiles, a backup ablative layer, and additional protections between the flap structures. Having tested this new design in 2 previous tests, SpaceX is now confident it will be modified and implemented in Flight 7. According to SpaceX's latest updates for Flight 7, the ship's heat shield will also use the latest generation tiles and includes a backup layer to protect from missing or damaged tiles. The latest version of tile here is metallic tiles, marking a revolutionary shift from the traditional ceramic to metallic material. Metallic shields offer significant advantages over traditional ceramic tiles, particularly in their ability to withstand multiple re-entry cycles with minimal degradation. This characteristic aligns seamlessly with SpaceX's ambitious goal of developing a fully reusable spacecraft. Unlike ceramic tiles, which can suffer from wear and damage over time, metallic heat shields are designed to endure the extreme conditions of atmospheric re-entry without the same level of maintenance required. The use of high-temperature metal alloys for heat shields provides excellent mechanical and thermal properties, allowing them to resist the intense stresses and temperatures experienced during re-entry. These materials not only maintain structural integrity under extreme conditions, but also require less frequent refurbishment compared to their ceramic counterparts. However, metallic tiles have a big disadvantage, as we have seen in Flight 5. Ahead of the flight, the engineers installed 6 aluminum-coated heat shield tiles on the S-30's side, and all of them melted during re-entry. Then it came to Flight 6. There was a big upgrade on the heat shield material. As SpaceX revealed, ahead of the flight, it tested those materials in a simulated Martian atmosphere. The material began to crack and melt as the test progressed, offering valuable data on its performance under extreme stress. After the test, Elon Musk added that the team returned to the idea of adding ullage gas or liquid film cooling to the metal shield. Adding further intrigue, the concept of metallic tile with active cooling is also one of multiple metallic tile options available for Flight 7 to test alternative materials for protecting Starship during re-entry. The incorporation of active cooling systems, such as ullage gas or liquid film cooling, can significantly improve thermal management. These systems help maintain lower temperatures on the surface of the tiles, enhancing their durability and effectiveness during intense re-entry conditions. Ullage gas can help maintain pressure and prevent cavitation in fuel tanks, while liquid film cooling can create a protective layer that absorbs heat and reduces the temperature experienced by the shield. At this point, we are in favor of liquid firm cooling that involves introducing a coolant fluid to form a thin layer over a surface, effectively shielding it from intense heat during re-entry. The operation of liquid film cooling is straightforward. The coolant fluid, particularly propellant fluid, is released through small openings or slots on the surface, referred to as film cooling holes. Then the protective layer is formed. As the fluid flows along the walls, it quickly evaporates to gas, creating a protective layer between the surface and the hot gas stream. This layer not only absorbs heat but also minimizes the thermal load on the underlying material. Of course, the gas heats up and is carried away by the airstream, and needs to be continually replaced. In addition to ceramic tiles, there are also more experiments with missing tiles. On Starship's upper stage, a significant number of tiles will be removed to stress test vulnerable areas across the vehicle. Of course, a backup layer will be added to areas with missing tiles, as I mentioned. On the sides of the vehicle, non-structural versions of ship catch fittings are installed to test the fitting's thermal performance, along with a smoothed and tapered edge of the tile line to address hot spots observed during re-entry on Starship's 6th flight test. The concept of missing tiles on the ship is not something new, as it was applied in Flight 6 when S-31's heat shields were not fully installed. The heat shield configuration is a major shift, and SpaceX will use it to assess new secondary thermal protection materials. According to SpaceX, several thermal protection experiments and operational changes will test the limits of Starship's capabilities and generate flight data to inform plans for ship catch and reuse. Notably, entire sections of heat shield tiles have been intentionally left off on both sides of the ship in key areas under study for catch-enabling hardware on future vehicles. In Flight 6, the areas without tiles are positioned around the forward flap, with images indicating that the heat shield is missing near the connection between the body and the flap. This modification could facilitate the installation of new catch hardware, potentially serving as a primary or secondary support point for the catching process. Envision a foldable system that can flexibly open and close, which would enhance integration with the chopsticks, leading to a more efficient and secure catching maneuver. In Flight 7, tiles are also removed from similar areas. Along with releasing the long-awaited update for the 7th flight, SpaceX also welcomed 2025 by launching its first Falcon 9 rocket of the year. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket took off on Friday, January 3rd at 8:27 p.m. EST from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, launching the Thuraya 4 spacecraft to geosynchronous orbit. Built by Airbus, Space 42's Thuraya 4 next-generation satellite will extend service coverage across Europe, Africa, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Soumya Srivastava, a SpaceX structures engineer, said during the launch webcast. 8 minutes and 40 seconds after taking off, the Falcon 9 booster returned to Earth for a landing aboard SpaceX's drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas, offshore nearby in the Atlantic Ocean. Friday's mission marked the 20th flight and recovery for this Falcon 9 first-stage booster, and SpaceX's 341st recovery of an orbital-class rocket. The Thuraya 4 mission also marks SpaceX's 418th flight of a Falcon 9 rocket, and the company's 435th mission overall. In 2024, SpaceX achieved a remarkable milestone by launching 138 orbital missions, with 134 of these utilizing its Falcon family of rockets. This represents nearly a 40% increase in launch cadence compared to 2023, when the company completed 96 Falcon missions. Notably, these 134 missions accounted for over half of all global launches, meaning that the total number of launches from all providers worldwide was still less than what SpaceX accomplished alone. Despite facing 3 mishaps during the third quarter of 2024, SpaceX maintained this unprecedented launch frequency. In July, the company experienced its first launch failure in 335 flights, followed by a booster landing failure in August that ended a streak of 267 consecutive successful landings. A third incident occurred after the Crew 9 mission, when the Falcon 9 second stage malfunctioned during disposal. Achieving such milestones is no small feat. It took approximately 10 years for the Falcon 9 rocket to reach its 100th launch, with the 200th launch occurring just 3 years later. By the end of 2024, the Falcon 9 had successfully completed its 300th and 400th launches, totaling 417 missions. This rapid progression highlights SpaceX's significant advancements in launch capabilities and operational efficiency over a relatively short period. The Falcon 9 rocket, developed by SpaceX, has a rich history that reflects the company's innovative spirit and commitment to advancing space technology. Its journey began with the first test flight of its predecessor, Falcon 1, on March 24, 2006. After several failures, Falcon 1 successfully reached orbit on September 28, 2006-2008. This success paved the way for the development of Falcon 9, which had its inaugural flight on June 4, 2010. Falcon 9 was designed as a 2-stage rocket capable of carrying payloads to various orbits. The rocket quickly gained prominence for its reliability and cost-effectiveness. By October 2012, it completed its first resupply mission to the International Space Station, marking a significant milestone in commercial spaceflight. A key feature of Falcon 9 is its reusability. In 2014, SpaceX began testing a reusable first stage, culminating in the first successful landing of a Falcon 9 first stage at Cape Canaveral on December 21, 2015. This achievement revolutionized space travel by drastically reducing launch costs. The first recovery at sea occurred on April 8, 2016, when a Falcon 9 landed on a drone ship after delivering a payload to orbit. The rocket continued to evolve with several iterations. Falcon 9 version 1.0 launched 5 times from 2010 to 2013. Version 1.1 flew 15 times, from 2013 to 2016. And the full thrust version launched 36 times between December 2015 and June 2016, 2018. The latest variant, Block 5, was introduced in May 2018 and has since become the workhorse of SpaceX's launch fleet. Despite these impressive feats, SpaceX intends to replace both Falcon and Dragon with Starship in less than a decade. The recent launches of SpaceX's Starship rocket showed that the company is making serious progress in getting the vehicle ready for prime time. SpaceX COO, Gwynne Shotwell, believes that Falcon and Dragon's days are numbered as soon as 2030. In a recent tweet, he expressed unwavering confidence, stating that the company would achieve a fully reusable heat shield by 2025 and perfect the technology by 2026. Such bold assurances suggest that Elon may have a game-changing development up his sleeve. A clue to this potential breakthrough could be found in another tweet he posted not long ago, hinting at a secret that may be behind his remarkable confidence. Back in November, he mentioned bringing back the metal heat shield. To many, a metal heat shield may sound strange, but to those who have been following the development of Starship for a long time, it actually feels familiar. Indeed, this is not the first time Elon has considered the option of a metallic thermal protecting system. Back in late 2018 and early 2019, Musk took to Twitter to announce that SpaceX was pursuing an exotic metallic heat shield that would be cooled largely by flowing liquid methane through tiny holes on its exterior, effectively sweating away energy and preventing steel tiles from melting. He plans for this shield to also be made of steel, cover the haft of the ship, and incorporate a water or methane cooling system to dissipate heat during re-entry. Musk said, "You just need essentially a stainless steel sandwich. You flow either fuel or water in between the sandwich layer, and then you have very tiny perforations on the outside, and you essentially bleed water or fuel through them to cool the windward side of the rocket." According to information recently announced by SpaceX, Flight 7 will use the most advanced version of the heat shield. Based on this, most likely Elon's company will use this test flight to test the effectiveness of the metal heat shield. Additionally, as you can see in the recent photo SpaceX posted, nearly 50 of the heat shields have been removed from the surface of the Starship. It could be that they wanted to push the ship's endurance even further during this test flight. Or it could be that these panels were intentionally removed to test a new system like they did on Flight 4. A system like, say, a metal heat shield. This thermal protection technology is not new to rocket science. In fact, it is a very common technology for cooling rocket engines, film cooling, as they're called. This method involves injecting fluid between the combustion chamber and nozzle surface, as well as the hot combustion gases. Since fluids can be either gas or liquid, this can be done using either liquid or gaseous propellants. The goal is to form a barrier between the wall and the hot combustion gases, with the cooler fluid acting as thermal insulation. The simplest way to achieve liquid film cooling is by placing a higher concentration of fuel or oxidizer injectors along the outer edge of the injector face. Since the main combustion chamber tends to be fuel-rich, fuel is typically preferred. This results in a ring of excess fuel around the outer perimeter, which lacks the necessary oxidizer to react with it. As a result, this fuel-rich region creates a barrier that prevents heat from transferring from the main combustion gases to the chamber walls. Most of the fuel near the walls, which cannot react due to insufficient oxidizer, flows along the chamber walls as a film, acting as a buffer between the combustion gases and the walls. As this fuel likely undergoes a phase change from liquid to gas, it forms a vapor boundary layer, absorbing heat during the phase transition, which requires energy and helps protect the walls. It is also common to drill holes into the wall and leak a small amount of liquid fuel, particularly in areas with high heat, such as the engine's throat. Despite the advantages, they chose to skip this idea and use a lighter, more traditional heat shield. Currently, Starship utilizes approximately 18,000 ceramic heat shield tiles to protect its belly, a design similar to the one used by NASA's Space Shuttle. However, there's a key difference. On the Space Shuttle, each heat shield tile was custom-shaped for a specific spot on the vehicle. While this ensured strong protection, the process of replacement and manufacturing often took months. In contrast, Starship's heat shields feature standardized hexagonal tiles, streamlining the manufacturing, installation, and maintenance processes, and allowing for faster, more efficient operations. These shields, though highly effective at resisting intense heat, are unlikely to be fully reusable. Made from ceramic, they are prone to cracking and can expand or contract with temperature fluctuations. As Elon himself humorously puts it, "You got a whole bunch of dinner plates stuck on the side of a rocket that's shaking like hell." Realizing this, SpaceX is always trying to improve its durability. Starting with the fifth flight, SpaceX introduced an upgraded heat shield design. This new version features an enhanced ablative secondary layer beneath the tiles, providing additional protection to the spacecraft when the tiles degrade during re-entry. According to Elon Musk, the improved heat shield tiles are approximately twice as durable as the previous ones, offering significantly greater resilience. Recent flight tests of Starship have demonstrated the superior protection of these upgrades, but they still cannot be considered truly reusable, which is why Elon wants to bring back the metal thermal shielding system, despite the added weight of Starship. If only there were a way to solve this problem. Wait, there is. A long-forgotten technology could hold the key to solving this challenge. The use of an all-metal thermal protection system for spacecraft is relatively uncommon, though not without precedent. NASA has toyed with this idea a lot back in the day. In fact, they have created complete metal heat shields and performed various tests on them. Meet X-33 Venture Star, a proposed uncrewed, subscale technology demonstrator for a suborbital spaceplane, developed by NASA and Lockheed Martin during the 1990s. The X-33 served as a technology demonstrator for the Venture Star orbital spaceplane, which was intended to be a next-generation, commercially operated reusable launch vehicle. The X-33 was designed to flight test a variety of technologies that NASA considered essential for single-stage-to-orbit reusable launch vehicles, or SSTO-RLVs. These included lifting body aerodynamics, composite cryogenic fuel tanks for liquid hydrogen, the aerospike engine, autonomous uncrewed flight control, efficient flight turnaround through streamlined operations, and metallic thermal protection systems. This metallic TPS concept seeks to decouple the thermal and structural functions by providing a metallic shell to encapsulate internal insulation, maintain panel shape, and support mechanical loads. This decoupling allows the use of structurally efficient materials and configurations, as well as thermally efficient internal insulations. Of course, the functions cannot be totally decoupled. The structural connections between the outer surface and substructure must be minimized to reduce heat shorts, and the internal insulation must still resist inertial and acoustic loads. Metallic TPS concepts use a foil gauge, superalloy honeycomb sandwich to form the hot outer surface. This honeycomb sandwich consists of a foil gauge metallic box encapsulating fibrous insulation. The exterior of the metallic box consists of a honeycomb sandwich structure with 0.005-inch thick face sheets and a 0.0015-inch thick 3/16-inch cell honeycomb core. The 0.003-inch thick side walls are beaded to reduce thermal stresses and prevent buckling under compressive loads. Both the honeycomb sandwich and the sidewalls are constructed from Inconel 617, a nickel-based superalloy, allowing the TPS to function at temperatures between 1800 degrees Fahrenheit and 1900 degrees Fahrenheit, with occasional spikes up to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. The inner surface of the metallic box is made of a titanium alloy, T6AI4V. In the previous design, the lower surface consisted of a titanium honeycomb sandwich with 0.06-inch thick face sheets and a 0.0015-inch thick 3/16-inch cell honeycomb core. Away from the panel's edges, the sandwich's face sheets were chem-milled down to 0.003 inches thick. A hole, covered with a 400 mesh screen to prevent liquid water from entering, is located on the lower surface of the panel. This allows the interior of the panel to vent to the ambient pressure, thereby reducing the pressure difference exerted on the metallic box. Internal insulation primarily prevents heat from flowing into the structure. Since the metal box preserves the structural integrity of the TPS, less durable but efficient insulation can be used within the box. This advanced heat shield has undergone a rigorous series of tests, including high-speed, high-temperature wind tunnel evaluations. The panels were also mounted on the underside of a NASA F-15 aircraft and flight tested at nearly 1.5 times the speed of sound. Further laboratory simulations replicated the extreme conditions the X-33's outer skin will experience during flight at altitudes of around 60 miles and speeds exceeding 13 times the speed of sound. Additionally, a successful thermal panel fit test confirmed the ease of installation and removal, showcasing the system's practical efficiency. After the cancellation of the X-33 program in February 2001, NASA shelved this approach to thermal protection. Few of the sample panels were acquired by the National Air and Space Museum for its heat shield collection. Now, what do these metal heat shields bring to SpaceX? Tests have confirmed that the metallic thermal protection system will shield vehicles from temperatures approaching 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, even though this number remains lower than the metal shield tested by SpaceX in 2019, which demonstrated the ability to withstand temperatures up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. With today's advanced technology, Elon Musk has the potential to completely modernize this over 30-year-old technique, transforming it into an exceptionally durable metal shield with unprecedented resilience. Because these metal heat shields were originally designed for a single stage-to-orbit vehicle, they would not be heavy. While it is unclear whether they would be lighter than ceramic heat shields, they would certainly be lighter than other metallic systems. Of course, because of their complexity, the cost to research and manufacture them would be greater than that of ceramic tiles. However, the long-term benefits of a fully reusable thermal protection system would ultimately make them more cost-effective after each flight. SpaceX could also redesign these panels to integrate with the existing ceramic ones, creating a heat-resistant system that utilizes two types of heat shields. Metal heat shields would be placed in areas most exposed to the intense stresses and temperatures of re-entry, while traditional heat shields could be used in less critical areas to reduce costs. One of the key factors behind SpaceX's remarkable success is their willingness to break from convention and relentlessly pursue innovation. Rather than sticking to traditional approaches, they boldly pivoted when they encountered setbacks, embracing a mindset of agility and fearlessness. When one path didn't yield results, they would say, "Screw it, let's try something new." No worry about losing face or sunk costs. That is also what sets them apart from the other giants in the industry. We all know Starship, SpaceX's giant rocket whose mission will take us to explore Mars and further space in the future. In a speech at Starbase, Texas, Elon Musk presented a blueprint of Starship. This blueprint included 3 versions. The most recently flown version was V1, which performed the legendary booster capture on its 5th test flight and was voted one of the top science highlights of 2024 by BBC World News. This version and the upcoming V2 version in early 2025 use the Raptor 2 engine. This is the second version of the Raptor series. In the further future, Starship Phi-2 is planned to be equipped with the latest Raptor 3 version being developed by SpaceX. This raises an intriguing question. If Starship 2 will be powered by the latest version of the Raptor engine, what engine will power the final version of Starship? Will it still be the Raptor 3, or could SpaceX be developing a completely new, secret engine? While SpaceX has yet to make an official announcement, the answers often reveal themselves to those who are proactive in piecing together the clues. Let's take another look at the plan. Starship V2 has a diameter of 9 meters and a height of 124 meters. With this size, the Super Heavy booster will be equipped with 33 Raptor engines providing more than 8,200 tons of thrust at sea level, allowing this ship to carry up to 100 tons of cargo to orbit. Starship V3 will be much larger than V2. At 150 meters tall, this ship is expected to carry twice as much cargo to orbit. This is also the vehicle that is expected to take us to colonize Mars in the future. The current Raptor engine, while powerful, is not yet powerful enough to support such a ship, at least according to Elon's plan. Therefore, an upgrade or a new engine had to be developed for this version. There is another hidden clue that Elon gave in a tweet on his X account. Thrust will exceed 300 tons with Raptor 3.x, enabling 10,000 tons of thrust at liftoff, getting close to the limit of known physics. What is that Raptor 3.x might be? I can't say for sure, but it seems like this version will pack some serious power. 10,000 tons at takeoff would dwarf any rocket ever built. The legendary rocket that took us to the moon, the Saturn V, said to be the most powerful of its time, had a liftoff thrust of just over 3,400 tons. Even NASA's current biggest rocket space launch system can only produce around 3,900 tons. To meet this giant liftoff thrust, each of these new Raptor engines is said to be able to produce 300 tons and can go up to 330 tons in the long run, which is about half the thrust of the F1 engine used on Saturn V. Impressive. But how will these new engines achieve such power? Well, there are many ways to improve the performance of a rocket engine. The first solution is you increase the nozzle size while the flow rate, chamber pressure, and throat area remain constant. This leads to an increase in specific impulse. A quick explanation about specific impulses. Specific impulse, usually abbreviated ISP, is a measure of how efficiently a reaction mass engine like a rocket using propellant generates thrust. Specific impulse, measured in seconds, can be thought of as how many seconds 1 kilogram of fuel can produce 1 kilogram of thrust. Basically, the more ISPs your engine has, the more efficient it is in using propellant. Elon also mentioned that this version will increase specific impulses by 5 seconds. While this may seem like a small gain, it will have a significant impact on overall performance. Now back to the solution. Even though expanding the size of the engine's nozzle could make it use fuel more efficiently, not to mention the change can slightly boost the thrust as well, this modification results in a significant increase in both the nozzle area and overall weight. SpaceX always wants to avoid adding weight as much as possible, and increasing the area may also prevent them from fitting all 33 engines into the Super Heavy booster. Of course, they could also do something like the Russian N-1 rocket, with an engine area that expands to 17 meters in diameter. Another way to increase the performance of the Raptor is to maintain the nozzle size and chamber pressure, while adjusting the throat size. Reducing the throat size can increase the exhaust velocity, improve specific impulse, and increase the thrust-to-weight ratio. However, this leads to a decrease in flow rate and consequently thrust. SpaceX kind of does this in their Raptor 2 version. A minor difference is that they do the completely opposite. Instead of reducing the throat size, they open it up a little. Increasing the throat size would allow more propellant to flow into the system, therefore resulting in a higher flow rate and greater thrust. While this change does slightly decrease the specific impulse, the gain in thrust far outweighs the loss, so you can say it is a necessary sacrifice. Now, if you don't want to reduce the engine's performance while keeping its size, there is still a way to increase the engine's thrust while still meeting these two conditions. You simply need to adjust the chamber pressure. With higher chamber pressure, the specific impulse will only see a slight increase, but this allows more fuel to be burned at a faster rate, producing a greater force. This results in a higher thrust-to-weight ratio, which is crucial for improving the vehicle's performance. This sounds like an efficient method, and it is. Throughout its history, SpaceX has always wanted to raise the pressure as high as possible. Even Elon joked, saying you have too much thrust like saying you too good looking or something. The only problem with this method is that you can only increase chamber pressure so much before it reaches its physical limit. One way to raise the output pressure and plow rate in the combustion chamber is to spin the turbopumps faster. This can be achieved by changing the mixture ratios of the methane and the oxygen, so they generate more combustion products. On the other hand, this would also create a higher temperature that might exceed the melting point of the turbine fan or the chamber wall material. SpaceX encountered this issue multiple times throughout the development of the Raptor engine, resulting in the explosion of dozens of engines and the melting of even more combustion chambers. To address this, SpaceX employs a range of innovative solutions, including the installation of advanced cooling systems for the combustion chambers. The Raptor 3, for instance, features a highly integrated cooling system that spans multiple components, ensuring optimal performance and efficiency. There has been an idea of using a cooling system on the turbine fan itself, similar to those used in jet engines. Elon replied that SpaceX has had a lot of discussions about it. However, the problem with using a cooling system is that you have to use it very carefully, as it could lower the temperature in the combustion chamber, ultimately reducing engine performance. Another way to address this is to make the chamber of the material with a higher temperature resistance. SpaceX has done this as well. The SpaceX Raptor engine is made from a variety of strong materials that can withstand harsh environments and have high heat resistance. One of them is an alloy called SX500. It is a proprietary nickel alloy developed by SpaceX for the Raptor rocket engine. This alloy is a variant of Inconel, a nickel chromium-based superalloy commonly used in extreme environments. SX500 is capable of withstanding pressures up to 12,000 pounds per square inch, 830 bar, far surpassing the capabilities of conventional alloys. If SpaceX decides to select or develop a new material, the key factor they will need to consider is cost. Still, it's not worth it to turn a $1 million engine into a $10 million engine for a little extra thrust, especially since SpaceX is working hard to reduce the cost of engine manufacturing so it can lower the overall cost of Starship flights. In order to reduce manufacturing costs, SpaceX also wants to reduce the Raptor's 3D printed parts as much as possible. When developing the Raptor engine, 3D printing was essential for creating complex, costly parts. The full-flow staged combustion cycle, with its intricate fuel and oxidizer components, benefited from this technology. However, as SpaceX moves toward mass production for the Starship program, it plans to shift to more traditional manufacturing methods for certain parts to speed up production and lower costs. This transition aims to make the Raptor engine production more efficient and scalable for Starship's high-frequency launches. All that being said, it's hard for those like us who aren't SpaceX engineers to speculate how they'll build Raptor 4. It's rocket science after all. But SpaceX doesn't need to build a new engine for Starship FOI 3. They can just use Raptor 3. Wait, didn't you just say it wasn't powerful enough? Yes, but that's only if it's in current numbers. SpaceX is using 33 Raptor engines for the Super Heavy booster. However, according to an environmental impact report submitted by SpaceX for launching 44 Starship flights at LC-39 published by the FAA, SpaceX proposed Starship launches configured with up to 35 Raptor engines. I think 35 Raptor 3 engines might do the trick here because, come on, let's not forget how crazy Raptor 3 really is. Although not yet officially operational, the test results for the Raptor 3 indicate that it will become the most efficient rocket engine ever developed. The most noticeable thing about the Raptor 3, especially when placed next to the Raptor 2 and 1, is that it is much more compact. As I mentioned earlier, the Raptor 3 now incorporates an integrated cooling system, reducing the need for traditional heat shields and cutting down on weight. Additionally, several bolts and flange components have been removed, further lightening the engine by approximately 7% compared to the previous version. The biggest improvement, however, lies in the sea-level Raptor 3's thrust, which reaches up to 280 tons of force, 21% more than the Raptor 2 and up to 51% more than the Raptor 1. Compare that to Blue Origin's BE-4 engine, a much larger and heavier engine that only achieves about 250 tons of thrust. This makes Raptor 3 the highest thrust-to-weight ratio engine ever built. 33 Raptor 3 engines would provide 90.75 million newtons of thrust for a 33-engine Super Heavy booster. So 35 Raptor 3 engines would provide 96.3 million newtons of thrust for a 35-engine Super Heavy booster. That is 61.8 million newtons of thrust, more than the Saturn V. Now, that number is hard for us to wrap our heads around. Many people believe that the Raptor 3 engine represents the pinnacle of combustion technology, and that surpassing it is impossible. But SpaceX has a long history of defying the impossible. When no one believed reusable rockets could be made, they did it. When the idea of a massive spaceship like Starship seemed unfeasible, they built it. I think they will absolutely create Raptor 4, only they can. SpaceX's journey to Mars is a promise, and Raptor 4 is just one crucial milestone on that path. In late 2023, Blue Origin electrified the space community with a series of milestones with its large New Glenn rocket. They completed the rocket's first stage hot fire test on December 27th at its pad, Space Launch Complex 36, in Cape Canaveral. It was a day that Blue Origin CEO Dave Limp called the big day. Simultaneously, the FAA issued the flight approval for New Glenn. All of this demonstrates that the maiden flight, designated New Glenn 1, is on track. At the time I made this report, the rocket may have been mated with its encapsulated payload, the final work before its historical launch event. The anticipation surrounding the launch of Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket is quite justified. Since Jeff Bezos introduced the rocket in 2016, there have been multiple delays, and the rocket has yet to make its inaugural flight despite various projected launch dates. Furthermore, Blue Origin's founder has heavily promoted New Glenn as a significant competitor to SpaceX's Falcon rocket, leading many to speculate that its entry into the market could challenge SpaceX's current dominance. However, that future remains elusive, as after trying to attract media attention late last year, the company suddenly went silent on New Glenn's progress, just as it had before. Surprisingly, they've kept so quiet even when the initial launch date of January 6th was right around the corner. According to the FAA, Blue Origin could launch New Glenn's first flight on the 6th of this month, with backup opportunities daily through the 12th. It's very likely that the January 6th launch window is off the table. So, when is the next available date? According to the new navigational warning, Blue Origin is now targeting no earlier than January 10th for New Glenn's first launch. That day is also the launch date of Starship Flight 7. And with this situation, it's not out of the question that New Glenn will launch after Starship. If that turns out to be the case, it would add to Blue Origin's humiliation against rival SpaceX. We know that Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket went vertical on the launch pad just 2 days after Starship Flight 6. But so far, while SpaceX has completed almost the necessary stages between launches and verified the launch date, it is still unclear when New Glenn will fly. The complexity of Starship's design and its ambitious flight objectives theoretically suggest that SpaceX would require significantly more time to prepare for its missions than Blue Origin. But in reality, SpaceX's rapid pace has proven otherwise. This situation raises questions about Blue Origin's pace in finalizing preparations for New Glenn's first flight, especially as the company navigates the intricate processes involved in launching a heavy-lift vehicle designed for reusability and capable of carrying substantial payloads. To date, SpaceX has been diligently engaged in testing and perfecting the components of its Starship rocket. Each stage of Starship has successfully completed its individual tests, and the focus is now shifting towards final integration. A significant milestone was achieved when the B-14 booster was successfully moved to the launch pad. In a recent update, SpaceX announced that on the night of January 2nd, the Flight Termination System, FTS, was installed on the B-14 booster, an essential measure for ensuring flight safety. The B-14 will remain at the launch site until Starship S-33 arrives, at which point the stacking and integration process will commence. To further clarify that the flight is on track, recent updates on the notice to airmen have been issued, detailing the warning areas and precise timing for the upcoming flight. The launch is now targeted for January 10th, 2025, at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time from Texas. Additionally, SpaceX has shared information about the schedule and maps for observation aircraft, which will play a vital role in monitoring the flight from a safe distance. As these updates continue to emerge, it is clear that SpaceX is gearing up for an exciting launch event. The excitement increased significantly as SpaceX generously revealed the internal details about Flight 7, such as the hardware upgrades and flight objectives. SpaceX's active engagement on social media explains why people are more interested in the firm than Blue Origin. Also, this is partly because the public likes Elon Musk more than Jeff Bezos. This topic often pops up online. Why does Jeff Bezos get more hate than Elon Musk? Musk was also named Time's 2021 Person of the Year. Of course, the reason is not indeed that he is the richest person in the world. In the words of a Quora user, Elon Musk is what you see is what you get. Brilliant with hubris, dad jokes, stupid tweets included. By interacting with the public on this platform, Elon Musk has attracted many fanboys and fangirls through social media. This helps him to communicate directly with millions of followers, allowing him to bypass traditional media channels. This direct engagement creates a sense of transparency and builds a loyal customer base for his companies, Tesla and SpaceX. His tweets often include personal anecdotes, memes, and candid thoughts, which humanize him and make him relatable to the public. This authenticity resonates with followers who appreciate his openness about both successes and failures. Bezos is different. His professional demeanor on X and his lack of personal connection with followers starkly contrast with Elon Musk's more engaging social media presence. Bezos tends to approach X with a formal tone, often sharing content that feels overly polished and lacking in emotional resonance. Ridiculously, while Jeff Bezos attempts to present himself as a professional, his company, Blue Origin, is not like that. Despite being in the space sector longer than SpaceX, Blue Origin's contributions to spaceflight are almost negligible. It has never sent people into orbit around Earth, something SpaceX accomplished in 2020. SpaceX's existence is indeed a game changer in this field. The firm has successfully completed its 435th mission to orbit, handling an impressive 85% of Earth's payload to low Earth orbit, thereby solidifying the United States' leadership in global space efforts. SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft has notably reduced NASA's reliance on Russian technology for crewed missions, reclaiming a degree of political independence for the U.S. More importantly, Elon Musk has advanced the concept of space commercialization like never before by developing cost-effective rockets. This innovation is a game changer for the aerospace industry, particularly benefiting government agencies like NASA. Imagine the potential savings in taxpayer dollars if we could replace expensive and controversial rockets, like the Space Launch System, with more efficient options such as Falcon and Starship. While Bezos may focus on a polished image and long-term visions for Blue Origin, the reality is that Musk's practical advancements and relentless pursuit of innovation have brought the dream of accessible space travel much closer to reality. SpaceX's influence goes beyond the range of the aerospace field. According to Time, his company is gobbling up local housing and encouraging employees to move there. Creating the city of Starbase, Texas, Elon Musk's relocation and business expansion in Texas has significantly transformed the local landscape, particularly in small border towns like Brownsville and Bastrop. His ventures, including Tesla's Gigafactory and SpaceX operations, have not only reshaped the economy, but also influenced the political and social dynamics of these areas. Musk's companies have become major employers in Texas. Tesla's Gigafactory in Austin employs over 22,000 workers, making it the largest private employer in the city. SpaceX's presence has similarly boosted employment opportunities, particularly in Cameron County, where the company has established a launch facility at Boca Chica Beach. This has led to a significant increase in local jobs and economic activity, with local officials noting that Musk's initiatives have spurred millions in sales and tourism as visitors flock to watch rocket launches. The influx of workers has driven up property values and increased demand for local services. New businesses, such as restaurants and hotels, have emerged to cater to the growing population of tech employees. In Brownsville, for instance, revitalization efforts funded by Musk's foundation have led to the opening of new cafes and public spaces, adorned with space-themed murals. While it may be tempting to overlook Jeff Bezos's contributions to the world, particularly in the context of the rocket industry, doing so would be unfair. Bezos emerged as a choice in 1999, at a time when e-commerce was just beginning to gain traction. He transformed Amazon from a modest online bookstore launched from his garage on July 5, 1994, into a colossal enterprise that today accounts for nearly 40.4% of all online retail shopping in the U.S. as of 2024. In its early years, Amazon generated $650 million in annual sales by 1999, representing about 5% of the U.S. e-commerce market. Fast forward a quarter century, and estimates for Amazon's U.S. merchandise sales have skyrocketed to as much as $540 billion, with e-commerce now making up 15.6% of the overall retail economy. Bezos's innovative approach to customer service, anticipating consumer needs before they even realize them, has been instrumental in Amazon's success. Features like same-day delivery have set new standards for convenience and efficiency in online shopping. His vision and relentless pursuit of growth have not only reshaped retail, but also had a profound impact on consumer behavior globally. In addition to his business achievements, Bezos has stepped up his philanthropic efforts since stepping down as Amazon's CEO. He has committed substantial resources to initiatives aimed at addressing homelessness through his Day One Fund, and has pledged to donate much of his wealth to charity throughout his lifetime. This commitment reflects a broader trend among tech billionaires to engage in philanthropy, although some critics argue that his contributions are still modest compared to his immense fortune. In short, thanks to Amazon's miraculous growth, Jeff Bezos has emerged as a symbol of innovation and success, making people always remember him as a top salesman rather than an engineer. In December 2023, Bezos made a significant move by appointing Dave Limp as the CEO of his space exploration company. This strategic decision is expected to propel the New Glenn project forward, with the first launch scheduled for this year. Limp's leadership is anticipated to bring new momentum and innovation to Blue Origin, aligning with Bezos's legacy of pushing boundaries in technology and exploration. On January 6th, Blue Origin CEO Dave Limp released breaking news about the progress of New Glenn's rocket. Blue Ring Pathfinder integrated. Jacqueline well underway. Launch license received. Here we go. This signals that Blue Origin's New Glenn is indeed ready for its maiden voyage from Launch Complex 36. The company also officially validates New Glenn's launch date with the launch window opening at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on January 10, 2025, and lasts for 3 hours. The January 10th launch date is within the time frame of the FAA's launch permit, which is valid from January 6th to January 12th. It initially served as a backup opportunity, with January 8th as a potential launch date, according to the FAA's Operations Plan Advisory. The latest announcement comes a month and a half after the rocket went vertical on the launch pad and 10 days after New Glenn's hot fire test. Compared to Starship's complex preparation, New Glenn's pre-launch preparations are pretty simple. Following the vertical positioning of the rocket last November, New Glenn was prepared for the multi-day test campaign leading up to the hot fire, including numerous inert, functional, and tanking tests. Soon after the static fire, the FAA granted the launch license for the firm. By then, Blue Origin CEO Dave Limp commented, "Well, all we have left to do is mate our encapsulated payload. and then launch. In addition, BO's recovery vessel Jacqueline has departed Port Canaveral early this month for the inaugural launch of New Glenn. Honestly, the anticipation surrounding Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket is palpable, electrifying the space community as it prepares for its long-awaited maiden flight. The maiden flight is particularly captivating because it represents the first real test of New Glenn's capabilities. Will it soar gracefully into the cosmos or face unexpected challenges? Furthermore, the flight, initially planned for October 2024, carrying NASA's Escapade Mars payload, was postponed as New Glenn was not anticipated to be ready for its debut by then. The Escapade mission has now been rescheduled, and the outcome of this flight will influence Blue Origin's launch frequency, with New Glenn in 2025. The company said that its key objective is to reach orbit safely. They also admit landing the booster on their first try on a barge in the Atlantic is ambitious, but they are going for it. The concern is not unfathomable. Take a look at SpaceX. Its early attempts at landing the Falcon 9 booster on a drone ship saw several explosive failures before achieving success. However, given the differences between the two scenarios, we'll simply have to wait and see how things unfold. And do you think New Glenn will nail a successful booster landing at its first trial? Don't hesitate to drop your thoughts in the comments section below. "This is our first flight and we've prepared rigorously for it," said Jarrett Jones, Senior Vice President, New Glenn. But no amount of ground testing or mission simulations are a replacement for flying this rocket. It's time to fly. No matter what happens, we'll learn, refine, and apply that knowledge to our next launch. Like any rocket launch, the Blue Origin rocket has typical mission milestones, like liftoff and stage separation. Powered by 7 BE-4 engines, generating approximately 1.5 million pounds of thrust, New Glenn will ascend vertically from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Florida. Following liftoff, New Glenn will follow a vertical trajectory before gradually tilting to achieve a more horizontal flight path. This phase is crucial for reaching the optimal speed and altitude for stage separation. After burning through its first stage fuel, New Glenn will separate from its first stage a few minutes into flight. The 57-meter-tall first stage, Glenn Stage 1, known as "So You're Telling Me There's a Chance," or GS-1SN001, will then initiate its descent for a planned propulsive landing on the recovery vessel, Jacqueline, positioned downrange in the Atlantic Ocean. The GS-1 stage, equipped with 7 BE-4 engines using methane and liquid oxygen as propellants, will use all 7 engines during launch and up to 3 engines during landing. The stage will also use fins and thrusters to guide its path to Jacqueline, which will be out in the Atlantic hundreds of kilometers off the Florida coast. The 23-meter-tall Glenn Stage 2, GS-2, will ignite shortly after separation, continuing to propel the payload into orbit. GS-2, powered by 2 BE-3U engines that use liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen as propellants, is not reusable. However, Blue Origin previously explored a concept called Jarvis, aimed at achieving full reusability for both stages of the vehicle. Once the second stage reaches the designated altitude and velocity, it will deploy the primary payload, the Blue Ring Pathfinder. As developed by Blue Origin's In-Space Systems business unit, the Pathfinder will test Blue Ring's core flight, ground systems, and operational capabilities as part of the Defense Innovation Unit's DIU Orbital Logistics Prototype effort. The DIU funding is helping to enable future Department of Defense missions. This deployment is expected to occur approximately 6 hours into the mission, allowing for extensive testing of systems and technologies. The performance of the New Glenn in completing these tasks will significantly influence its future path. First of all, this inaugural mission is part of the National Security Space Launch Program, which could position New Glenn as a competitive player in government contracts and national security missions. Last June, the U.S. Department of Defense picked the company, SpaceX and ULA, to compete for the Pentagon's lucrative National Security Space Launch Phase 3 procurement program. This marks a significant milestone for Blue Origin, propelling Bezos' rocket launch and human spaceflight company into the competitive arena it has long aspired to join. On the other hand, there will be some challenges ahead. SpaceX and ULA, two titans in the launch industry, have since 2020 been the Pentagon's primary rocket launch providers under a predecessor program called Phase 2. That program gave ULA a 60% share of all Pentagon missions through 2027, with SpaceX getting the rest. Therefore, in this third phase, the Washington-based company will need to make significant efforts to stand out against its two rivals. Moreover, the successful completion of this mission will validate Blue Origin's technology and operational capabilities, not only for the Pentagon, but also crucial for future missions and broader commercial viability. For example, the New Glenn rocket is expected to help deliver payloads to the company's planned space station, Orbital Reef. Jeff Bezos' rocket company aims to turn the space station into a destination for astronauts when the International Space Station is no longer in use. New Glenn, coming online soon, also will facilitate the launch of the Blue Moon lunar lander, a precursor to a future crewed lunar lander it is developing for NASA. This lander aims to support NASA's Artemis program and further exploration of the Moon. Apparently, you can't prove your ability to reach another planet if you haven't even made it to orbit yet. At this point, can't help but mention significant commercial launch contracts, including a multi-launch agreement with AST SpaceMobile. This partnership is designed to deliver multiple next-generation Block 2 Bluebird satellites to low Earth orbit, enhancing AST SpaceMobile's capability to provide cellular broadband services globally. Through these missions, Blue Origin strengthens its position in the competitive space launch industry, particularly against established rivals like SpaceX. The company's mascot is a tortoise, paying homage to the tortoise and the hare fable that made the slow and steady wins the race mantra a childhood staple. "We believe slow is smooth and smooth is fast," Bezos said in 2016. Those comments could be seen as an attempt to position Blue Origin as the anti-SpaceX, which is known to embrace speed and trial and error over slow, meticulous development processes. However, so far, there is a big difference between them. SpaceX cemented its position as the dominant in the space industry. Meanwhile, Blue Origin is well known for suborbital space tourism. That gap could be far extended in Trump's second term, when Elon Musk is appointed as the head of the Department of Government Efficiency, along with ex-presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. His partner in the Polaris program, Jared Isaacman, is nominated to NASA's new administrator. This raises speculations about the advantages SpaceX might gain over competitors when vying for national contracts. Nevertheless, Jeff Bezos said he is not worried Elon Musk's influence on the incoming Trump administration will adversely affect the company. "I take at face value what has been said, which is that he is not going to use his political power to advantage his own companies or to disadvantage his competitors," he said of Musk. "I could be wrong about that, but I think it could be true." With the New Glenn's maiden launch on track, Bezos is confident about the future of Blue Origin, saying the company has a lot of runway, given that he can continue to finance it through sales of Amazon.com shares. Blue Origin is going to do some amazing things here. "It's not a very good business yet," he acknowledged, but offered high aspirations for it. "From a business point of view, from a financial returns point of view, I think it's going to be the best business I've ever been involved in, but it's going to take a while." He confirmed that he believed the company would eventually surpass Amazon, which, as of the close of trading on December 4th, held a market capitalization of approximately $2.3 trillion. Perhaps his optimism is well-founded given New Glenn's progress in recent years. This is thanks to his brilliant decision to appoint Dave Limp as the new CEO of Blue Origin on December 4th, 2023. Limp is a former Amazon executive who led the company's consumer devices unit. He oversaw the development of the Alexa voice assistant, Echo smart speakers, Kindle e-readers, and Fire-branded streaming sticks and tablets. He also oversaw the creation of Amazon's Kuiper project, a planned network of satellites that would beam internet. Limp's experience in the consumer electronics industry could be valuable in developing commercial applications for Blue Origin's space technologies. His focus on urgency, decisiveness, and customer centricity could help Blue Origin become a leading player in space exploration and commercialization.